And therefore, we are going to read the two verses, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7 and verse 17. Hebrews 11, 7 and 17. I believe these two verses will open the path for us to be able to understand or to answer the question, what is the anchor of our faith? I believe everybody who is here is a believer. And if you are not, you are welcome. So let's read Hebrews chapter 11, verse 7 first. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. Verse 17, scroll down. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. I didn't quote the whole verse, but these two statements bring to us what I would like us to focus on briefly. The story for Noah starts in Genesis chapter 6, continues in chapter 7. Those are the introductory chapters to the story because they give us the context in which the story took place and what the foundation was. Chapter 6 opens with God getting disappointed. He says he's disappointed that he had created humanity because he now sees that the hearts of human beings are meditating on evil continually. And as a result, as you come down to chapter 7, he decides that he's going to wipe out all created beings on earth. Many others will die on account of the evil of the human race. But he says, Noah found favor in the sight of God because by faith, he was willing to listen to what God was saying. So he calls Noah and tells him, I'm going to wipe out the human race. I'm disappointed that I actually created human beings. But I'm going to save you. And the way I'm going to save you is you are going to prepare an ark. You're going to build an ark, and a flood will come. It is in chapter 7, an explanation of how the flood will come is given, that there will be rain on earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And the earth will be swallowed up. All the created beings will be destroyed. But all those that will be in the ark will be saved. Now, what I want us to look at is Noah lives among people in a society which has established cultures, behaviors, and philosophies. Literature that is taught to the young ones as they grow. And these people in their vocabulary, they don't have rain. They don't have flood. These things have never happened. It has never rained. Nobody can imagine what rain will be. So when Noah is being told that, there will be rain for 40 days and 40 nights, and you need to prepare an ark to escape, and he believes what he has been told, and he goes on immediately, he starts behaving like it has started raining. By faith, he starts building an ark, and he builds it for 120 years. I'm sure that society asked questions, wondered what had gone wrong with Noah, but Noah continued for 120 years without any hesitation, without getting embarrassed, without questioning whether this message could have come from some other source than God, because God is supposed to be logical. He's supposed to be understanding. He's supposed to do things that make sense. But God is asking Noah to do things, to believe things that don't make sense. And Noah believes and does it. History tells us that it actually happened, and Noah was saved with his family, and that condemned the world that then was. Then we come down to chapter 11, verse 17. It becomes even more challenging. Abraham is being asked to go and offer his only son. As far as the Bible is concerned, there are those who will ask, what about Ishmael? Because Ishmael was born before Isaac. But Isaac was the son of promise. The rest of the debate we can have at another time. For tonight, he's willing to offer the son of promise as a sacrifice. Now, society had its way of life. There were things that were taking place around where Abraham lived. It was natural, not necessarily natural, but it was normal practice for the heathens to offer their children as sacrifices to their gods. There was specific instruction to Moses in writing later on as to what to do with children, so that children are not offered to gods as sacrifice. It wasn't something that was expected to happen among those who believed in God. And I want to believe that Abraham understood that God didn't expect him to offer his children or a child as a sacrifice. But then God comes and says, Abraham, I want you to take third only son of Sarah, and I want you to go to Mount Moriah, a journey of 3 days. 3 days is long enough to stop on the way and think when you sleep at night, because they used to sleep on the way and then start trekking the next day. So for 3 nights, I probably would have gone through lots and lots of thinking. But Abraham was able to go through that and came all the way to Mount Moriah, put Isaac on the altar, ready to slaughter him as a sacrifice, but God provided a substitute. The question here is, how was Abraham able to tell that this is not Satan giving me these instructions, because it is the followers of Satan who practice this thing of giving children as a sacrifice. But Abraham knew his God so well that he knew it was God speaking. And if God spoke, it didn't have to make sense. Abraham obeyed by faith. In fact, the author of Hebrews continues to say that he had some kind of understanding that God was going to do something, including probably raising Isaac from the dead, because he promises the servants that I will go with the boy, worship, and come, and the two of us will come back to you. Anyway, that's for another day. For tonight, what I want us to look at is the fact that God, both to Noah and to Abraham, does not seem to fit the logic that we have as human beings. Especially for Abraham, it would look like God is asking Abraham to do what Satan was expected to ask Abraham to do. But the important thing here is that Abraham, by faith, was able to do what God asked him to do. Why? Because he knew God so well that he could distinguish the voice of Satan from that of God. So, where does this take us? How do we choose which place or a person to anchor our faith? When it comes to matters of faith, there are so many schools of thought. If you read the tenets of various denominations, you'll discover so many differences of faith. We are only going to look at two. The first group that I want us to look at is there are those believers whose faith is anchored on what? In other words, their faith is anchored on ideology. They believe in the message. These usually are those who seek to conform to correct doctrines, correct religious practices, well thought out plans and programs, and they make considerable effort to pattern their lives after what they believe is truth. Nothing wrong with such people. The second group are those whose faith is anchored not on what, not on the message, but on who. Their belief is on the messenger. I want to believe that the difference between the two determines how we respond to situations that are beyond our understanding. For example, Noah and Abraham did not necessarily believe. Yes, they did believe the message, but the reason why they believed the message is because they believed the messenger. For example, as I was trying to say before, if Abraham was to believe that offering his son is the right thing to do, just as a message, it would have been very difficult. But because he believed that this message, even though it does not make sense to me, I cannot even tell it to my wife. Since this message came from God, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to live by it. So his faith was anchored in God. It does not matter whether God said go east when he thought west was the right way. For example, Moses is leading Israel from Egypt through the desert to Canaan. And the directions that God gives end up keeping the people in the desert for 40 years, when they could have done the whole journey maybe in 2 weeks. I'm sure there were those who asked, because they could not question God, they questioned Moses and Aaron, why are we going south when we should be going west? Or why are we going north when we should be going east? They knew the road. They could see the promised land across. But the path that God chose, which went round and round in the desert, did not necessarily make sense to the people. But Moses did not question the leading of God. Moses' faith was anchored in God, not in what he only followed what God said because it is God who said so. He didn't tell God, God, I think here you are wrong. This other road is shorter. So, what does this mean to us? If we believe in God, there are things that are going to happen in our lives or around us in this world, some of which will be so confusing. But if we believe in God and trust Him, we will in the end find ourselves on the other side. And Ellen White says, if we could see the end from the beginning, then we would never choose any other way except the way that God has chosen to lead us. So Abraham did that which may not have been logical, did not fit with logic, but Abraham knew God enough and trusted God enough in order to believe that what God has said is right. Sometimes God's leadership may not make sense. It may not fit in with logic. We just have to know Him well enough to trust Him to carry us through. I think this was the problem of the Israelites in the time of Jesus, because Jesus refused to fit in with the religious beliefs and practices of the time. And since he didn't fit in, they decided to get rid of him. They could not trust him enough to let him carry them through. Here is the verse that I want us to conclude with. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. I believe that we in the religious world one of our greatest troubles is that we lean a lot on our own understanding. And when God does not seem to fit with our understanding, we leave him aside and go our way. Success for the religious world is only going to come when the world does not rely on the messages, relies on the messenger, because he is the way, the truth, and the life. May God bless you as you continue to remember him day and night. Tomorrow night, we'll briefly look at the concept of time. I hand over to the leaders to tell us what happens next.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.